Do you, Kunle, take Ada to be your lawful wife, to love and cherish her for the rest of your life?
She thought love could conquer all, but the silence in her home told a different story. Days turned into months and her heart slowly broke in ways nobody could see. What would you do if the person you trusted most stopped caring? How do you fight for a marriage when the person you love has already given up? Now stay with us, because what happened next will leave you speechless. Imagine waking up every day beside someone who once promised to love you but now treats you like you don't exist. That was Ada's life, and the worst part, the man who broke her will later beg on his knees for forgiveness, but by then it might already be too late. Ada didn't always live like that. There was a time her life felt soft, full and hopeful in the quiet way only she understood. She wasn't the loudest person in any room, not the one who needed attention to feel seen, but people noticed her anyway. There was something about her calmness, the way she listened, the way she smiled like she truly meant it. She had a way of making people feel comfortable, like they mattered. She loved deeply too, not the kind of love that plays games or keeps scores, but the kind that gives without holding back, the kind that believes in people even when they don't fully believe in themselves. And that was that kind of woman. So when Kunle came into her life, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like everything she had been waiting for. He was confident in a way that filled the room, the kind of man people turned to look without realizing they were doing it. He spoke with certainty, moved with purpose, and carried himself like someone who knew exactly where he was going in life. He had ambition, success, and a presence that made him hard to ignore. And somehow, he later noticed her. At first, Ada didn't think much of it. Men like Kunle didn't usually go for women like her, or at least that was what she had always believed. But he was consistent. He called, he checked on her. That was what got her. Not the money, not the confidence, not even the charm. It was the attention, the way he made her feel seen. Their conversation started simple. Late night talks turned into early morning texts. They laughed, shared stories, opened up about things that they hadn't told anyone else. And before Ada realized it, she had let her guide down. She trusted him, and that trust quickly turned into love. Kunle didn't waste time. He knew what he wanted, and he moved with intentions. He talked about the future like it was already planned. Then he proposed. It didn't feel sudden, it felt right, like everything was falling into place. The marriage came not long after. It was beautiful in a way that made people talk about it for weeks. The church was filled with family, friends, laughter, and joy. Ada walked down the aisles in a dress that made her feel like everything she had ever dreamed of becoming. When she saw Kunle standing there, waiting for her, smiling, her heart felt full. That moment felt like forever. When he held her hands, she felt saved. When he looked into her eyes, she saw certainty. And when they both said, "I do," Ada believed she had found her home in another person. But sometimes, what looked like a home at the beginning becomes a place you don't recognize anymore. The first few weeks of marriage felt normal, nothing dramatic, nothing unusual. They settled into their routine, learning each other in a new way. Ada enjoyed it. She liked waking up beside him, cooking for him, building something that felt like a shared life. But slowly, something started to change. It didn't happen all of a sudden. It never does. Kunle started coming home late than usual. At first, Ada didn't question it. Work was demanding, and she understood that. She wanted to be supportive, not difficult. So she kept quiet. But the late night becomes frequent, then normal, then expected. Conversations become shorter. Kunle was always on his phone, always busy, always somewhere else, even when he was right there. Ada noticed, of course she noticed it, but she told herself it was nothing. She didn't want to be that woman the one who complains too much, the one who creates problem where there was none. She just adjusted. She gave him space. She waited. But the space only grew wider. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between them became something she could no longer ignore. It wasn't just about time anymore, it was about presence. Kunle was there physically, but emotionally he was gone. Ada started trying harder. She cooked meals she knew he would love. She dressed up in ways she hadn't done in a while, hoping he would notice. She started conversations, asked questions, tried to bring back the connection they once had, but every effort felt like it disappeared into nothing. Kunle barely reacted. Sometimes he nodded, sometimes he gave short replies, sometimes he didn't respond at all. And slowly, Ada started to feel something she had never felt in her life before. Unwanted. It crept in quietly. At first, it was just a thought she brushed away. Then it became a feeling she couldn't shake. And before she knew it, it became her reality. She could sit in the same room with her husband and felt completely alone. There is this kind of loneliness that comes from being alone. And then there is a louder kind. The kind that comes from being with someone who no longer sees you. That was the loneliness Ada lived with every day, and she wasn't ready for that. But eventually, it started to show. Her friend noticed the change before Ada admitted it. The way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. The way she hesitated before answering simple questions. The way she seemed present but distant at the same time. One afternoon, while they were in the kitchen together, her friend finally asked, "Ada, are you okay?" Ada forced a smile and said, "I am fine." But her friend didn't believe her. For a moment, she considered telling the truth, letting everything out. But instead, she shook her head lightly. "It is just marriage, you know, adjusting." Her friend looked at her carefully. "Adjustment doesn't look like this." Ada didn't respond because deep down she knew her friend was right, but she still wasn't ready to face it. So she kept trying. She told herself love was worth fighting for. She told herself things would get better. She told herself this is just a phase, but phase don't usually feel this heavy. They didn't make you question your worth. They didn't make you feel invisible in your own home, and they definitely don't make you cry quietly at night, lying next to the person who's supposed to love you. The breaking point didn't come with the shouting. It didn't come with the chaos. It came quietly. On a night that felt like every other night, Kunle came home late again. Ada was sitting in the living room waiting, not because she wanted to question him, but because she needed to understand. When he walked in, he barely acknowledged her, dropped his car key, sat down, picked up his phone, like she wasn't even there, and something inside her snapped. "Kunle," he didn't respond immediately. She called again, "Kunle." He looked up, slightly ignored. "What?" That one word carried more distance than anything she had ever experienced before. Ada swallowed. "What is happening to us?" "I am tired," he said. "That is not what I asked. I am not attracted to you anymore." Just like that, no emotion, no hesitation, no care. The word landed heavily. Ada didn't react immediately, not because it didn't hurt, but because it hurt too much. Her mind struggled to process it. Her heart struggled to accept it. And in that moment, something inside her broke in a way she didn't know how to fix. That night, she didn't argue, she didn't shout, she didn't fight for explanation. She just sat there in silence because sometimes pain is too deep for words. And when the tears finally came, they didn't stop. She cried for everything, for the love she thought she had, for the future she imagined, for the version of herself she had lost trying to hold everything together. And somewhere in the middle of the pain, she found clarity. That kind that doesn't come from happiness, but from heartbreak. She realized something she had been avoiding for a long time. She had been fighting alone. And love is not supposed to feel like that. So she made a decision, a quiet one, but one that would change everything. She got up, walked into the bedroom, and started packing. Not in anger, not in haste, but slowly, carefully, like someone who understood exactly what they were doing. Every item she packed carried a memory, and every memory made it harder. But she didn't stop because this time she's choosing herself. The room felt different as she moved around it. Not like the place she had once called home, but like somewhere she no longer belonged. Kunle was still in the living room. He didn't come in. He didn't ask questions. He didn't try to stop her. And somehow, that hurt more than everything else. Because even now, he didn't care. Ada folded the last piece of clothing and placed it inside her bag. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was something else, something deeper. Finally, she looked around the room one last time. The little thing that once meant something, now they felt empty. She picked up her bag, walked slowly towards the door. For a second, she paused, not because she was unsure, because she was saying goodbye to the version of her life she had believed in so deep. Then she stepped out, and just like that, it was over. That night felt different, cooler, quieter, honest. Ada stood outside for a moment, holding her bag, not knowing exactly where to go, but knowing she couldn't go back. Her phone buzzed in her hand. It was her friend, almost like she knew. Ada, are you okay? Ada tried to speak, but the voice cracked. I left. There was silence on the other end for a second. Then her friend spoke, firm but gentle. Where are you? Outside, Ada said. Stay there, I am coming. Ada lowered her phone slowly, and for the first time that night, she allowed herself breathe. Her friend arrived not long after. The moment she saw Ada standing there with her bag, her expression changed. Not question, not judgment, just understanding. She walked up to her and pulled her into a hug, and that was it. That was all Ada needed. Her friend held her tightly. I got you, she whispered. You are not alone, and for the first time in a long while, Ada believed it. The day that followed wasn't easy. There is a strange feeling that comes after you leave something that once meant everything to you. It is not just sadness, it is confusion, emptiness, silent in a different form. Ada moved into her friend's place. At first, everything felt unfamiliar. The room, the routine, the quietness, but slowly she began to adjust. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. She started doing small things again, waking up early, making her own breakfast, sitting by the window with her thoughts. At first, those thoughts were heavy. Memories of Kunle could come unexpectedly. The good ones, the way he used to laugh, the way he used to look at her, the way everything once felt right. And every time those memories came, they hurt because they reminded her of what she had lost, or maybe what she thought she had. Meanwhile, Kunle was finally alone, truly alone. The house felt different without Ada. Not just quiet, but empty in a way he couldn't ignore. At first, he didn't think much of it. He told himself it was temporary, that she just needed space, that she would come back. But as they passed, something started to shift. He began to notice things. The little things, the way the house used to feel when she was there, the meals she made without being asked, the way she checked on him even when he didn't deserve it. He noticed the absence of her presence, and it hit him slowly. Then, all at once, Ada was gone, and for the first time, he felt it, not just the silence he has created, but the weight of it. One evening, he sat alone in the living room, the same spot where she had asked him that question. What is happening to us? He replayed it in his mind over and over again. And then he remembered what he said. I am not attracted to you anymore. The word felt different now. Not careless, not light, but heavy, sharp, real. And suddenly he understood. Not just what he said, but what he did. He had broken her. Regret is a strong thing. It doesn't come when you expect it. It comes when everything is quiet. When there is nothing left to distract you. When you finally have to sit with your actions and face them. That is where Kunle found himself. He stood up slowly, walked into the bedroom, opened the wardrobe. Half of it was empty. He stared at it for a long time. And for the first time, he felt something he hadn't felt before. Not anger, not frustration, but lost. The next day he couldn't focus. Work didn't make sense. Conversation felt distant. Everything felt off. Because no matter what he did, his mind kept going back to one place. He picked up his phone several times, thought about calling her, texting her, but each time he stopped. What would he say? How do you fix something like that? How do you take back words that cut so deep? And that realization made everything worse. Back at her friend's apartment, Ada was trying to rebuild herself, trying to find pieces of who she used to be. Her friend stayed close, not pushing her, not forcing her to talk, just being there. And sometimes that is enough. One afternoon, they sat together quietly. Ada was staring out the window, lost in thought. Her friend finally spoke. Do you miss him? Ada didn't answer immediately because the truth was complicated. After a while, she nodded slowly. I do. Her friend looked at her quietly. That is normal. Ada sighed. But I don't miss how he made me feel. That was the difference. And that difference was everything. Days turned into weeks and slowly Ada began to change. Not completely, not instantly, but little by little, she smiled more, talked more, started doing things for herself. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't waiting for someone else to notice her. She was noticing herself. But somewhere else, Kunle was still stuck between regret and reality. He couldn't move on, not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't ignore what he has lost. And deep down, he knew something. If he didn't do something soon, he might lose her forever. And that thought scared him. That was the moment everything began to change. Because regret alone is not enough. Real change began when you decide to act. Kunle was about to do something he never thought he would do. He was going to go after her, not with pride, not with ego, but with something he had never truly shown before. Kunle didn't waste any time anymore. Called one person he knew, the one who had been there for her since before he ever came into her life. He explained everything, his voice shaking, the words spilling out faster than he could control. He begged her to tell Ada he wanted a chance, just one chance to make things right. He confessed his mistakes, his neglects, the way he failed to love her the way she deserved. Her friend listened quietly, weighing his sincerity. Finally, she agreed, but only on one terms. Ada would have the chance and he must accept whatever decision she made. Kunle promised. Later that evening, Kunle found himself standing outside the same apartment where Ada had been staying. His palms were sweaty, his heart racing. He rehearsed what he would say over and over, but then the door opened and he saw her. Everything else vanished. Ada looked calm, but there was a hardness in her eyes that made him swallow his pride instantly. Ada, he said, his voice breaking. I was wrong. I've been wrong every day since you left. Please, can we talk? He said. Ada didn't move. She studied him quietly. The silence stretched, heavy and tense. I don't know if you understand, he continued, how much I have lost, how much I have hurt you. I can't change the past, but I'm begging you. Please let me prove I can do better. Her eyes softened slightly, but she remained firm. Kunle, she said, words wasn't enough anymore. You need to show me. You need to understand my words, and if you fail, I walk away forever. He nodded eagerly. I understand. I will do whatever it takes. I promise, Ada. I swear I will never take you for granted again. For the first time in weeks, Ada allowed herself to breathe. She let the possibility of hope creep in, but she reminded herself that trust must be rebuilt, not given freely. Over the following weeks, Kunle kept his promise. He was consistent, patient, attentive, and truly present. He didn't rush her, didn't demand forgiveness, but proved through every action that he would value her, respected her, and was committed to changing the dynamic of their marriage. Ada watched him carefully, weighing each gesture. Slowly, she saw the man she had once loved. Finally, after weeks of careful observations and trusting her own feelings, Ada made her choice. She forgave Kunle, not because she had forgotten the pain, but because she had grown strong enough to choose love on her terms, to allow herself to be loved again without losing herself. They stood together one evening, the sun setting behind them. Ada took his hand, feeling the warmth and sincerity in the grip. We start over, she said quietly. Yes, he whispered, tears in his eyes. We start over. And for the first time in a long time, Ada believed it could truly work. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. She had chosen herself first, and now she was choosing love again. Not blindly, but consciously, carefully, and with strength. And in that choice, she found freedom, kind of happiness that comes from knowing your worth, being seen, and finally being heard. This was Ada's journey, and it was a story that would stay with anyone who had ever loved deeply